for the ladies who are girly girls like me, agriculture could be creating nutraceuticals like skincare products. That's part of agriculture. So the ladies who are creating the body butters or natural scents or even soaps.
Welcome to Pushing Your Peers Podcast, the number one podcast in the region for living a progressive and happier life. On this episode, we're joined by Keith Lynn Caroo-Afrifa, the founder and CEO of Helen's Daughters, as she shares her powerful journey from her roots in farming to leading an agricultural movement that has trained over 6,000 women across the Caribbean in agriculture, business, and community development. This conversation is all about empowerment, food security, and the impact of purpose-driven work. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss an episode. Sit back, relax, and let's get ready to push some peers. Keithlin, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's dive straight into it. You are the CEO and founder of the agriculture initiative called Helen's Daughters. Tell us, how did this whole initiative come about?
Oof, that's a bit of a long story. But I come from a farming family on both sides. And I was raised in my maternal grandparents' home, which is literally sitting on what I like to call like a food forest. My husband calls it Whole Foods. Because literally you can go to the backyard and pick or like take anything that you need to eat, drink, whatever it's there. Um, so although like I come from a farming family, I was never pushed into farming, especially as a girl. I went to all girls schools, and agriculture was never a subject. And essentially I thought my life was going to be like international development, my career. So after I finished my master's, I was working at the UN in New York for about 5 years, and constantly going back and forth to St. Lucia. And there was just something that I noticed. I noticed one, that there wasn't a lot of grassroots movements in the Caribbean, unlike like Asia and Africa, where you see a lot of grassroots organizations that are having privatized schools or privatized healthcare, not necessarily relying on government. And it triggered something in me, especially because I come from an agricultural community. And then essentially, when my grandmother passed away and just going through her things and getting my mom's birth certificate, it kind of started when I saw her listed as a housewife. And I know her as the one who would get up with my grandfather, go to the farm, but also, unlike my grandfather, have to go to the market as well, and then come home and take care of kids and cook 3 meals a day and all the things. I still don't know how she did it. And from there, I just always thought about how impactful it could be if there was almost like a support organization for women like my grandmother, because they were the ones who paid for our schooling, who some way somehow had savings, who always had money around to invest in whatever like their kids or grandchildren needed. And I just always used to think, what if she had like a support system, how much further she would have become. And one thing I've seen within my own household is that oftentimes when you invest in women, typically women don't just think of themselves, they tend to think of the entire family. So for me, it's not just about pushing women, but it's about pushing Caribbean families and using women as an entry point. And also agriculture as an entry point, because I look at farming not just as like production for, like in terms of food, but I look at, especially Caribbean farming, we treat our farmers as health workers, because they're the same persons that they don't just grow like to fill your belly. They grow to nourish you, to heal you. Oftentimes women will have like medicinal gardens and so forth, because I don't usually like to take pills. And I'm actually just coming off of a cleanse, and that's like from ancestry. Like 3 times a year my grandmother would give me like a cleanse, to purge yourself and so forth. And I think that's the ingenuity of Caribbean people. And it's something, and Caribbean farming, and it's something at Helen's Daughters that we really just want to protect. So that's my very long-winded answer, but it's a bit of how I got to where I got to.
So you talk about, your journey. How did you come to naming it Helen's Daughters? Why that specific name?
Great question. It's Helen's daughters because St. Lucia is called Helen of the West Indies. So back home, we say we were passed around between the British and the French. So seven times British, seven times French. So the story goes that we were, such a prized possession that we were fought over like Helen of Troy. So then the moniker came Helen of the West Indies. So it's kind of like an homage to St. Lucia. But the thing is, when I created the name, I really never thought that Helen's Daughters would expand the island's boundaries or St. Lucia's boundaries. I thought it would be kind of like a small scale project. And then when we started doing the work, we recognized that holy crap, like these are issues across the Caribbean. So when we started kind of, marketing to other countries, people would always ask us, so what's Helen's Daughters? So we looked up the name, and the name Helen actually means light. So now we're like, we're bringing light into the agricultural sector.
So beautiful. Now you talk about your initiatives. Walk us through the first initiative that really got the company or organization off the ground. Like, what was the first thing you guys did to establish yourselves in the community?
So I think the first thing we did was Uh, well, advocacy, because I was in the US at the time. I was still at the UN, and created this organization. So I was using social media almost to test, talk about issues like land access, the informality of women in agriculture and so forth. But what we realized was that when we were talking about those issues online, it's like it wasn't really making much of a change. So the first thing that I did was invest in an agricultural training program that is completely free to women in agriculture. And something that's very different that not only trains farmers in production, but trains farmers in business techniques. So enabling like an entrepreneurial mindset. So looking at things like financial literacy, contract negotiation. Even now, we even have like intellectual property. All of these things are so key, not just to agriculture, but to businesses in general. And it's things that we tend to miss the mark of. And to date, we've trained over 6,000 women through the agricultural training program. So this whole idea that women aren't interested in agriculture is completely false. The problem is that, similar to me, a lot of women don't get the chance to ever study agricultural science because sometimes it's not even introduced in schools. And if they are introduced to it, oftentimes it's like a paid program. And we already know the stereotypes of agriculture, that it's low paying, that it's a lot of work. So people technically don't want to invest in something that they're not necessarily sure that there'll be gains for. So what we try to do is to close that gap, to have, and right now it's blossomed into a 10-week program that's still completely free, and I'm about to put a plug in. It is going to be starting up in August, September of this year. We've run it every year since 2017 or 2018, thereabout. And it covers everything, as I said, from sustainable agriculture, financial literacy, contract negotiation, you name it. And it allows women to actually get, like a sense of the agricultural sector on a whole, to see if it's for them, to see if it's not for them, or to maybe even look at niche areas or for the ladies who are already in the sector to improve some of their operations.
So you run this 10-week program, and other people start to notice you across the region. How has your organization grown in other Caribbean countries? What was that process like?
So it first happened where the University of the West Indies ended up scoping out, well, hearing about the Ag Academy on a panel that I was on. And they were doing a project from St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Vincent and the Grenadines that was focused on food and nutrition, but they didn't really have a farming aspect to it. So what we ended up doing, they subcontracted to us to run this program for like 2 years, and that was right after St. Vincent's eruption as well. Um, and also during the pandemic. So there was a lot of people that were kind of going back to agriculture, whether they lost jobs and this and that and so forth. And after the 2 years, we were like, yep, thank you. This has been great, but we're going to continue on. While you close out the project, we've made relationships, so we're going to continue on. And that's something that's also important to us. A lot of times in development work, there's a project, and I hate the word project because it means there's a start and an end date.
Right.
For us, interested in investing in communities. So when you hear the Academy, it's been running for like 6, 7 years. When you hear like our telecounseling initiative, it's been running for over 2 years. Or our Life Academy, there's continuity. Our farmers markets, it's the same thing. So that's something that we're interested in. There's definitely been initiatives where we've experimented with and it hasn't worked. But I think right now, and this would be started in 2017. So this would be, yeah, 9 years. Uh, we've been able to now recognize the core programming and how to enhance it, but more so to ensure that we're creating a really beautiful community, and a community that people can count on.
You know, Keithlin, I am so happy to have you on the show because fuel security became a huge thing in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the whole world shut down, production shut down, and it's like countries started to realize that hey, we need to start growing our own food. We can't depend on other countries. And I'm from the Turks and Caicos Islands, where we don't really grow enough to produce for the whole entire country, right? But I love how your organization is targeting women. Speak to our women listeners right now. You know, what step can I take to get into agriculture right now? I've been, again, they've been watching, they've been thinking about it. What are the steps they can take right now to get started in agriculture?
So many ways. Um, And the thing is, agriculture, I'm like, I get passionate about this because there's so many things. So, for the ladies who are girly girls like me, agriculture could be creating nutraceuticals like skincare products. That's part of agriculture. So, the ladies who are creating the body butters or natural scents or even soaps, because people like me, I go to the farmers markets because I can't use commercial soaps on my skin. I have such sensitive skin, and starting to use organic soaps made by farmers that I know are making them has transformed my skin. Or even like I said, like cleanses, like as human beings, simple things like putting aloe in water and this and that, making little shots, for example, like morning booster shots or immune shots. That's part of agriculture. And there's so many easy ways. Like we're not asking you to build out a full farm, but you could grow like herbs in your kitchen. So you could start with a small rosemary plant, and you take that plant. Rosemary is great for the hair. You can infuse that rosemary stalk in your shampoo, see your hair grow, or you can throw it into your, whether it's your chicken or whatever seasonings. If you want to up it, even there's soilless agriculture, like the aquaponics and the hydroponics and so forth. You can literally like grow heads of lettuce and be like, look, I don't even need to buy lettuce because I'm doing it at home. For the ladies who love animals, for example, my mom has just been going through this because she had some wild chickens in her yard. And she's like, I have chicks now and whatever. I'm like, you can make a little coop and you can get eggs right there. So I think sometimes people think of agriculture as like this huge scale thing. And I think as Caribbean people, we need to look at it actually from a smaller scale and from a quality perspective. I think we need to look at agriculture as something to grow, to nourish ourselves, to heal ourselves rather than mass production. Because I think mass production in terms of food is what's killing us in the first place. And if you take that one step to grow a little bit at a time, you can have like a tiny grow box. Some people use old tires and do it, or like I said, on your kitchen counter. There's so many ways. And again, like Helen's Daughters, there's several things you can catch up on our academy trainings on YouTube. They're public and so forth. And you can see some of like the initiatives as well. There's women, there's one woman who is a member of ours, Beryl Seaton from Nevis. And she's doing such amazing things because she's differently able person. And she created a grow box, like very tiny for other differently able persons, and they can grow their herbs, their lettuce, their veggies, and you should see what these persons are doing. So I think sometimes we just think of it and we get overwhelmed, but it's just doing a little bit at a time. And there's so many ways to get into the agricultural sector.
Now, Keithlin, Keithlin, it may be somebody who's looking for your guidance and mentorship. I know you just mentioned your training program being free on YouTube. Is that correct? So,
Yes, so all our past training programs are on YouTube.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, our past programs are on YouTube. But then we're now in 5 countries. We will get to Turks and Caicos one day. But every year we run actual training programs. And then those training programs also have practical components in country. At least 3 or 4, so that people actually get, like the practice as well, the hands-on practicals. But yeah, if you're just getting into it and so forth, you can go onto our YouTube page and see literally everything from financial literacy, like I said, creating a lean canvas for your business, your agricultural business. If you want a food safety plan, also you can go onto our website. We have our Academy journals there. There's lots of templates and so forth to help persons that are just getting into the sector. So you can check it out.
Absolutely amazing. And you've trained over 6,000 farmers, is what you're telling me.
Yes, and counting. I can't wait to get to 10 and more.
Absolutely amazing. Now, when countries are consulting you, what's the process? I know you say you run a 10-week training program. Is it the same 10 weeks you do when you travel to a place like, let's say, the Turks and Caicos Islands and any other countries, or are you customizing the program based on the needs of the country?
That's what we do. So we don't only do the Ag Academy. We, aside from the Ag Academy, we have local coordinators in each country because we recognize, even though we are one Caribbean, but there's differences in each country. So perhaps maybe a farmer's market access is needed in St. Lucia, but it may not necessarily be needed in Turks and Caicos. So we use the knowledge of our local coordinators to guide us. While we have regional programs like our academy, as I mentioned, we have the Life Academy. So because we recognize that a lot of times farmers are just trained on production, but we recognize they are human beings. So in the corporate sector, there's things like counseling, there's things like, there's several things to provide holistic support, and that's what we try to do. So we actually do provide telecounseling for all our members as well across the 5 countries, which is free. We also have a program called the Life Academy. So that touches on things outside of the agricultural sector, but that's important to us as Caribbean people. So right now, we're prepping for emergency management training, even training in how to prepare nutrition during an emergency. Because as you know, our families, we have persons with diabetes, hypertension, and so forth. So what do you buy for an emergency when you're dealing with those types of situations? Um, Outside of that, we have our ambassador program. So every year, our farmers choose the 2 ladies that they believe would best represent us. They get travel opportunities, they get public speaking, grant writing opportunities, along with the opportunity to implement a community project that we invested. We also have an agri-tourism program in St. Lucia primarily, where we provide angel investment for a farmer to be able to run those stores. So it really does, we have those core programs, but each country also has their own programming happening according to their local coordinator. Because I think that's the little magic of Helen's Daughters, is that we try to keep listening, keep our ear to the ground to know what people really want.
I'm excited for your company. It's modern. It's what we are looking for. And I want to share with you, Keith Lynn, that I know recently the minister of the Turks Islands, Honorable Shivago Jolly, he said that we are aiming to build a agricultural park. I think it's agri park or something of that nature. I'm not sure. You probably know the terminology better than me, but that is something that we are aiming for. Well, we're aiming for in the future. So I love that this information is accessible through your website. And persons, you are listening, reach out. I will share all the information on the social media pages. So please reach out to Keith Lynn so that she can guide you through the process of starting your own agricultural journey. And as she mentioned, it don't have to be just the typical garden setup. You can get into cosmetics and a vast of other things in agriculture. And I want to commend you for the work you're doing with Helen's Daughters. And the support is here. Continue going, Keith Lynn.
Thank you so much, Leo. Thank you. And you were right. It's an agri park. And I'm glad to hear that, because I think a lot of communal spaces are needed in agriculture. But no, I'm excited. I'll be leaning on you when we get to Turks and Caicos. And thank you just for this opportunity. It was really lovely to talk to you.
Now, Keithlin, you wouldn't be a guest on my show if you didn't get to push some peas. This is Pushing Your Peas podcast. So, any word or words that begins with the letter P that has been transformational to your journey, you now have a chance to push your peas. Any word or words that has been transformational to your journey.
Persistence and passion. I I never took no for a no. And if you can't find the partner or the institution to help you, go around it. Create your own system, create your own frameworks. Um, don't wait for a yes to create what you know is needed. And passion, because every day, if you create the right environment, work will never feel like work. It'll just feel like your calling and what you're meant to do. And no matter how hard it gets, I think passion will always get you through it.
If you can't get a seat at the table, go and build your own. I love it. I love it. Now, I still got a few more questions for you. Few more. We almost done. There's a Keith Lynn listening right now. Keith Lynn, and she is new to this whole agricultural journey. What is your advice to her right now? And of course, there's this fear of how can I make a sustainable living from this? So guide her through that as well in your response.
First thing, don't jump at it full time. Don't ever jump at everything full time, just like me. If you're in a job or obviously you need the funds to invest in this, do both. Try to juggle both for a bit of time. Find a mentor. Um, find someone, even if it's online, but find somebody that you can bounce ideas off, somebody that can give you encouragement, or someone who's been within the sector. And it's not just about somebody that does something similar, but it's just mindset wise, they're aligned with you. The third thing I would say is to start small and find your niche. Don't necessarily go into what everybody else is going to. Look at some of the niche markets. Look at some of those and focus on quality over quantity, especially in the Caribbean region. I think that's what sets us apart. And the final thing, leverage social media. I'm not a social media person, But for my organization, we were early adopters to social media, and thankfully it's paid out. And it's the biggest tool to connect now, to learn from other persons and to also get, exposure to your own work, and never stop learning, never stop scouring the internet, never stop looking for opportunities because they are definitely out there.
Powerful, powerful advice. Ladies and gentlemen, and she gave that for free. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Now, spin-off question time. Are you ready for the spin-off question?
Mm. I'm ready.
if
I'm
if
ready.
animals could talk, which one would be the rudest?
It's random. Cats. I feel like
Careful now, we got some cat lovers out there. Be careful now.
a cat lover, and I'm telling you, I feel like they're already rude. I feel like cats expect, like, they believe that they rule the world already. I feel like, Egyptians used to worship them, so maybe they're still in their ancestry. Um, and they don't talk, but they're very entitled. So
I agree with you. Absolutely. I see no arguments there. Keithlin, thank you so much for your energy and for all the work you are doing in the community of St. Lucia and also the region at whole. I mean, you're doing fantastic work. Having trained over 6,000 people is no small feat. And so we commend you. And before you leave, how can persons reach out to you and contact you for more advice and even booking you to come to their countries?
amazing. Thank you for asking. So you can see our work, helensdaughters.org. We're also on all social media platforms at Helen's Daughters. And you can find my email on the website, info@helensdaughters.org. Yeah, just shoot us an email, and I'm here, and we're literally on all social media possible. So you can get updated. You can also sign up for our newsletter on our website as well.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Keith Lynn Caroo-Afrifa. I always butcher that part. Thank you for
Got it.
being thank you for being a guest on Pushing Your Peers podcast and sharing so much valuable information about agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the CEO of Helen's Daughter, based in St. Lucia, an organization that has trained over 6,000 people and counting in agricultural field and development. Caitlin, we thank you. And of course, keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure being here. Thanks again for the
Yes,
opportunity.
yes. And of course, we'll see you guys next week on Pushing Your Peers podcast.